we're going to cover down payment and closing cost assistance. And I'm going to show you 5 ways to get money to buy your home. Okay, 5 ways to get money to buy your home. Okay, and the 5 ways are gifts from friends and family, borrowing from your retirement, negotiating with the sellers, lender credits, and no money down programs. Okay, so let's talk about borrowing from your friends and family. Actually, you know what? Borrowing is the wrong word because you can't borrow from them. Actually, you're going to sign an affidavit saying that you're not going to borrow the money from them and pay it back. You're actually getting, or they're gifting the money to you. Okay. Now, whether you borrow it or not, that's up to you. But technically, you're not supposed to borrow. There's no limit on the funds that you can receive from your friend or family member. Okay. So they can pay your down payment and closing costs. They can pay for everything. Okay. Now, the lender is going to scrutinize your donor's bank statements basically as bad as they scrutinize your bank statements. So what happens is that the lender, to qualify for the mortgage, they're going to want to see 3 months of your bank statements, and they're going to look for very large cash deposits. They hate cash deposits. They hate large deposits. Okay, they want to source all the funds. They want to know where all the funds are coming from. So if your donor gives you a bank statement to prove that they have the funds, it can't have large deposits on it. That's going to be a huge red flag. And large deposits, if you're a police officer and let's say you work a lot of overtime at clubs and things of that nature, they may pay you in cash. Well, if you put that money in the bank and they don't know where it's coming from, or you can't have a paper trail where it's coming from, it's going to be a real problem. And same with your donor. So no large deposits, and they want to see the money in the bank for 30 days. So if grandma has money for you and she puts it in her bank account, it has to be there for 30 days before she can give it to you. So that's what 30-day seasoning means. It needs to be in the account for 30 days. So you can get money from a friend or family member. You just got to make sure you do it correctly. Okay. You can borrow from your retirement. Okay. You can borrow off a 401k. You can even withdraw from your IRA. There's a certain amount, I believe $10,000, $15,000. And you want to talk, if you have both an IRA and a 401k going on, you want to talk to your financial person, because there's going to be some pros and cons to taking money out of each one. So you just got to make sure that you're doing it correctly. But you want to borrow off your 401k. You don't want to withdraw from your 401k though. That's going to cause a penalty. I know that for sure. So you want to borrow off of it, and your plan will have limitations on how much money you can get. It's usually like $50,000 max, something like that. Now, when you borrow from your 401k, it's going to be like a 5-year term, 6-7-year term. Again, that's going to depend on your plan. So you're going to have to pay that money back with interest. But the good thing is the interest goes back into your 401k. So you're kind of paying yourself interest. Okay. Now, what you'll do is you'll find the home, and then you'll initiate the paperwork to borrow the money. And it usually takes about 2 weeks to disperse. So you don't want to do it at the last minute. You want to start it right away. Your institution, your 401k institution is going to want the contract, and they're going to want a loan estimate to verify how much money you need. So again, it's a great way to get down payment assistance. Now, the only drawback, I think, of borrowing off your 401k is that, you might take a 5-year term. If you quit your job or leave the job in less than 5 years, the amount that is due, they're probably going to want it like right when you leave. So if you borrow for 5 years, you plan not to leave your job for 5 years, or you're going to have to pay all that money back in one lump sum. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Right. Now let's talk about negotiating with the sellers. Actually, my favorite part of the transaction, negotiating with sellers. And it's really about who has the walk away power in the negotiation. Okay. And that depends on the market. So if you put an offer, but right down the street, there's another house that's really similar. The one you're putting an offer on is a little bit better, but there's a similar property down the street. That gives you walk-away power. If the seller doesn't take your offer because they know that they have maybe 3 or 4 other offers that are coming in, they have walkaway power. So it's all about who has the walkaway power. So who has it in this market? Well, before I get into that, I've got to kind of give you a little bit of real estate one-on-one on the different type of markets. Okay, so let's talk about the seller's market. Okay, in the seller's market, the sellers have a walkaway power because there's more buyers in the market. Okay, so the sellers basically, they get to choose what buyer they want, and so the buyers basically are bidding on the houses, and they're going over asking price and things of that nature. So the sellers usually make more money, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the values are going up in this market. The values are going up because there's more buyers and sellers, and the buyers are bidding each other. Okay. Then vice versa, you have a buyer's market. Price values are going down because there's only a few buyers in the market. So the sellers are dropping their prices and doing whatever they can do to attract these buyers. So prices are going down. So the buyer has more walkaway power in the buyer's market. Okay. And then you have a balanced market where, you can find the house you want. The seller can sell the home if they're putting it at the right price, and they're beating out all their other homes that are on the market. They can definitely sell their home. And that's a balanced market. Okay. Now, what we do as realtors is we look at the market and we try to find out how many months of inventory is in the market. And that's how we can tell if it's a buyer's market, a balanced market, or a seller's market. Okay. So it's months of inventory. Basically, that's if we tell ourselves, okay, if we stop listing properties today, how long will it take for all the homes to get sold? Okay. That's months in inventory. Okay. So if it takes between 1 and 5 months, then it's a seller's market and the prices are likely going up. If it's between 5 and 6, it's an even market. Prices are remaining constant. And then if it's 6 months or more inventory, you're going to see prices reduce or depreciate. Okay. So I pulled up some market statistics in the Woodlands, and let's see what's going on. And I want you to ask yourself, who has the buying power, or who has the walkaway power? Sorry. Do you have the walkaway power, the buyer, or the seller have the walkaway power? Okay. Now, also keep in mind that I'm just giving you an overall statistical range. Okay. You really need to have a very specific statistic range depending on where you want to live, what neighborhood, because prices change from block to block. The month supply changes from neighborhood to neighborhood. So you really need to get something very specific, but this gives you an idea of what's happening in the market right now. Okay, so in the Woodlands, as you can see, from 2014 to 2016, they've had a huge increase in their inventory. Okay, it's gone way up to right about 1,000 homes on the market. And just early January, they had only 250. Okay. Now we talked about months of supply of inventory, remember? And they are at about 6.5. So as we remember back in our chart, 6 or more is a depreciating market. So they're going from normal to depreciating. And you know something, they're doing it pretty fast because just in spring of this year, they were at 3 months of inventory, and it just shot up to 6.5 months, in about 6-7 months. It's pretty amazing. And let's see what prices are doing. They're kind of diving in the Woodlands. So they were all the way at 450,000 in summertime, right? And now they're all the way down to the median sold price is 300. So half the homes are selling for more than 300, half are selling less for 300. Okay, they had a $68,000 change in price in 1 year. So we'll have to wait and see going into the spring and summer if this continues. But this market right now, in my opinion, is a buyer's market in the general Woodlands area. Okay, and remember that the real estate market is cyclical. It goes up and down. So it goes into buyer's markets, right? This is over here. The buyer's market has oversupply, lots of vacancies, lots of homes for sale, and you'll see prices dropping. And then eventually it'll go back around and people will buy all the houses up. There'll be low vacancies and prices will rise. And then the builders will start building again. And as you know, in certain areas in spring, there is just tons of new construction going on right now. So even spring is probably teeter-tottering on this, oversupply. Okay, but so we're seeing declining prices. So who do you think has the walkaway power? I think the buyer does in certain areas in the Woodlands. So, which means that when you ask the seller to pay for your closing costs, there is there's a high chance that that's going to happen. Okay. Now, a lot of people want to wait and see what's going to happen. So they'll kick back and say, well, let's see if we get to the bottom. The only challenge with that thinking is that rates are headed up. Everyone thinks they are. Okay. That means they're going to go up. Even the National Association of Realtors thinks that it'll be close to fives by next year. The Mortgage Brokers Association thinks it's going to get to 4.8, very close to 5. So rates are going to go up. So the problem when rates go up is that it swallows up all the savings you had from the price going down. Okay, so look at this chart. It shows you what I'm talking about. So if you're buying a $400,000 home and the rate's 3.75, your principal and interest is going to be about $1,852. That's principal and interest. We're still leaving out taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance. Okay, so that's not going to be a payment at $400,000, but that's just principal and interest. And this gives you an idea of what's going on. So let's say prices drop all the way to $360,000, $40,000, 10% price reduction. Okay, and let's say rates go up to 4.75. Well, check it out. Your principal and interest went to 1878. Your principal interest went from 1852 at 400,000 to 1878 at 360,000, just because the rates went up 1%. Can you imagine if the rates go up 2%? So rates going up are going to have a big impact on your monthly payment. Now, because prices have dropped, your down payment is going to be a little lower, right? Your down payment at 360 is different than your down payment at 400. It's lower, but your monthly payment is going up, and that's what most people really care about, are their payments. Okay, so if rates go up, you'll lose a lot of that, I guess, savings. And then, while you're on the fence, your rent's going up. Rents have been going up since 1988. So I think that if you're really, really interested in buying a home, something that you really want to do, I think this winter market going into early spring is going to be a great market to purchase. All right, because you should be able to get the seller to pay a lot of your closing. All right, now let's talk about lender credits. Okay, so when the mortgage crisis happened in like 2007, 2008, they completely rearranged how lenders get paid, how most lenders get paid. Okay, now that you see them kind of going back to some of their old ways, but most of them get paid off volume. Okay, so a loan officer doesn't get paid points any longer. They get paid off volume. So the more loans they originate, the more money they make. Okay, so what has caused them to do, though, is credit back the points because they're points in the deal. And I won't go into why they're points in the deal, but there's money in the deal that they really can't use. So they credit it back to buyers, okay, to the tune of 2%. All right. And so 2% of the sales price, if you're talking about $250,000, that's $5,000 that the lender can give you to help you buy a home. So when you're deciding on lenders, the first question you might want to ask is, what's their lender credit? Because they should be giving you 1-2 points at the very minimum. All right. Now, here's another problem if rates go up. If the rate goes up, now the lender can't offer you 2 points any longer. So if the rates go up, this lender may only be able to give you 1 point. Or 3.75 may cost you points. You might have to buy down the rate. Okay. So Be very careful with these rates. They're going to affect how much money you're going to be able to get out of the deal. Okay. No money down programs. So at the moment, right now, there are two no money down programs, only two. All right. However, if the market starts to go into a buyer's market and people aren't buying homes as much, you're going to see the state or the county start originating these first time home buyer programs. I've seen them all the time. All right. Because the economy gets a $52,000 boost every time someone buys a home. A lot of people get paid. The lender gets paid. Realtors get paid. There's taxes to be paid. But also, furniture is bought. The people go to the hardware stores for maintenance, roofs, furnaces. So if there's no homes being bought and sold, then that money is not being generated. So sometimes the county has to step in and try to galvanize that a little bit. So you'll see no money down programs come up as the market gets worse, if the market gets worse. But right now, there are only two. So there's one. Well, one is the Veteran Affairs loan for veterans. Okay. It's 100% financing, no money down. Texas even has a special one. I'm not going to get into it, but Texas has its own veterans program as well. But general, it's no money down, no mortgage insurance. You can get tons of closing assistance. You can even have the seller pay off your credit cards. So it's that good. And then it's a no point loan. It's very inexpensive. Okay. And the drawback with the veterans loan is that the home generally has to be in good condition. Okay. We can negotiate with the seller to fix some items, but it generally has to be in good condition. And then also, in a veterans loan, the appraisal is very strict. So the appraiser is going to want to compare the home to 6, 8 properties that have sold. Whereas a conventional loan, they only really need to compare the property to 3 other homes that have sold. So the appraisal is a little bit stricter on a veterans loans. The next one is a USDA rural housing loan. No money down, 100. They cover 100% of the mortgage. Very low mortgage insurance. Okay, you can actually finance your closing costs, meaning if the house is selling for 200, and let's say the appraisal comes in at 210, the lender will give you $210,000, even though the sales price is 200,000, and then you can use that extra 10,000 to finance your closing costs, need be. Okay, the rates are very low, and again, they're no point rates, so they don't cost you anything additional and any lender fees to get the rate. And then they cap it at 417,000. Now the drawback with the USDA is it's only eligible in certain areas. So this beige area, the USDA loan is basically not eligible, like in Woodlands and Spring and things of that nature. Okay, but it is eligible in certain areas of Conroe, as you can see where it is white. If you go down to Humble, so there are restrictions on where you can use this loan. Okay. Now, if you're interested in owning a home, the very next best step is for us to meet and go through the entire home buyer consultation. This was just a part of the consultation. And when you come in and meet with me, we'll get a lot more specific on where you want to live. We'll look in the neighborhoods and places you want to live. We'll talk about some negotiating strategies based on where you want to live. We'll talk about the costs of buying a home, what your payments are going to be. I'm also going to give you some vendor lists of home inspectors and lenders, just to take the headache out of looking for competent people. Okay. And then we'll get you qualified and we'll go out and find you a home. Now, I do an initial consultation because I know that a large percentage of people who meet with me will be willing to hire me as their agent after we talk and after I prepare them for the process. Okay. Now, the cost to you, if you decide to hire us, is $299, and that is due at closing. So if we never find you home, you don't have to pay us a thing. In fact, it's my goal to get the seller to pay that fee on your behalf, along with your title insurance fees, along with your home warranty and other things. Okay. Now, I'm so confident that you'll find great value in our conversation that if at the end of our initial consultation, you tell me I wasted your time, I'll pay you. I'll fill your gas tank and send you home. Okay. That's how much I have confidence in the information that I'm going to give you. I'm going to compensate you for your time and your trouble. Okay. Now, to schedule an initial consultation with me, you have to meet the following criteria. Okay. You have to be employed for the last 2 years. All right. You have to have a 5A score or above. Okay. If you've been in bankruptcy, you've had to have gone through your bankruptcy 2 years ago. So it's okay to have gone through bankruptcy in your lifetime, but it can't be less than 2 years ago. Okay. And you have to be buying in the next 3 months. All right. And then you have to have some kind of down payment. All right. Unless you're going VA or USDA, you have to have some kind of down payment, or you have to have money in your retirement, or you have to be planning on getting a gift. Okay. Now, if you fit all those criteria, give me a call or send me an email. Okay. My number is 281-969-3817, or my email, marcus@springhomesearch.com. Thanks for taking your time to listen and to learn. Best wishes on your home search.